Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of TechSci Talks. Every once in a while, you meet somebody when you feel that there is a story behind this man. And today, our guest, Mr. Vishal Aggarwal, is no immune to that. He has spent almost 3 decades in the technology space and is already leading three companies as CEO: eSolutions, Automation, and IRO AI, an intelligent hiring platform. So let's welcome Mr. Vishal Aggarwal to our show.
Thank you, Karan.
Thank you so much
Yeah,
for joining today.
pleasure is all mine.
All right, great. So Vishal, before we get into more complex or industry specific discussion, can you give us a brief about yourself? How did you landed here, or leading eSolutions as a CEO? Uh, did it happen for you, or did you make it happen for you, or you just stumbled upon it?
Yeah, so if you look at it right from the beginning when I started off my career, so I started around 32 years back. And when we graduated after college and we get our first job, we get from the campus. However, one thing which I was always very clear that I want to be in sales when we were in college. Unlike a lot of people, when you are in college, your first objective is getting a job. And I was very clear that I will take up a job, but only has to be in sales. So that was the only time I was very clear this is what I want to do. However, over a period of time, I think as challenges, life changed, and type of opportunities which came up, I did not hold back from taking experiment or experimenting on those or taking those risks. One, because I always thought at someday this was a vision I had that I am going to be leading a company. Right? If I have to do that, I need to have diverse experience. So that was another thought process. So when I started working, so I started looking at different roles, responsibilities. Some you are very successful, some you are average engagement, but it always give you some sort of learning experience. And that is what I had been doing. And I think because I have been experienced, I got exposure working in multiple areas. That gives me that confidence. And then when this opportunity came up, I did not hesitate for a minute that should I be taking it up or not. I was pretty confident I can do it and I can deliver. So that's how it really happened in this case.
Very few people prefer or choose sales, I would say. I'm,
Okay.
I'm sure you must have,
Yeah.
so if you ask a youngster that, do you want to get into operations or sales, I think there are very few people who would choose sales.
Mm.
But probably that's what makes
Yeah.
business
Somehow, in
leaders.
my case, when we were doing engineering, so I did my engineering from Punjab Engineering College,
Okay.
Chandigarh. So we were getting a lot of companies visiting our campus. So I was right from the beginning. I said, this is the only type of job. Whichever company comes for hiring that, I will only take up that. And so that's how it happened in my case.
So was your family background or your family into business? Were you, or, service? Were you rich or?
No, we were a simple middle class family. My father was doing a government job. My brother was doing a government job. So business was one. Second thing was, interesting thing is that no one was there in sales as well. And my father was a little disappointed when I said I want to do sales. He said, "Why do you want to do that? Why not get into you done from electronics from PEC? Why don't you take up something else?" And I said, "No, that is what interests me." And he said, "Okay, if that interests you, then go ahead and do it." And that's how it all happened.
Nice. So you worked across very different industries,
Yes.
telecom, software products, consulting, workforce solutions. Each of those worlds operates very differently,
Correct.
what I've seen, right? Now, looking back, how did moving through those different environments shape the way you think and make decisions today?
Yeah. So if you look at it in each of those industries where I worked, I think they teach you different things. So if you look at telecom, when I worked on it, telecom is all about scale, right? How fast you can grow up, or how large an engagement could be. When you look into services or consulting, then it is how can you move process driven, right? And when you get into products, and there was in between, I also worked somebody driving global innovation for a large multinational company. Both these things really help you creating your vision, which is beyond what you're doing now. It makes you look beyond that horizon and say, well, this is what the future is going to be. And when you're into product development or you're into innovation, you look beyond what is available, how the world is going to be in the future, right? A very interesting statement when Steve Jobs made an interview. He said, "You don't give people what they want, you give them what they should be doing and what the future is going to be." And that's how
True.
these two things really helped me. And the last thing, which is about workforce management, I think it really boils down to give you and gives you an idea that whatever you're doing, it is all about people,
True.
right? And the workforce management business was about managing people, deploying people, working on assignments. And that is how, if you look at it, the amalgamation of all these different experiences helped me shape and made me ready for all future challenges which really came our way, and we addressed it.
That's great.
Yeah.
Now, remote work, cross border hiring, the gig economy,
Yeah.
or the distributed teams, the nature of employment has shifted significantly in the
Correct.
last 5, 6 years,
Correct.
specifically if I talk about,
Yeah. Yeah.
From a global vantage point, what do you see the most fundamental change in how companies are approaching this workforce today?
So one, I think what has happened in this, and this really happened, one good thing which came out of COVID was that the horizon, the way people was, the organization used to think and look at workforce was more about coming to office, sitting in rooms, working
Right.
together.
Yeah.
And COVID made people think, look beyond the conventional. How, what are different ways? How can we use more tools? And how people, even if they're distributed, can work collaboratively. Uh, and because of COVID, it forced people. It was not that they opted for it. And when they started doing this, they saw the success also coming in. And they also saw efficiencies coming in. I'll tell you, in my organization, initially we were really scared what's going to happen. There were companies we were seeing laying off resources.
Right.
We were a little conservative and we said, no, we are not going to be laying off. Let's try and reduce costs, but we'll retain everyone. So we didn't lay off anyone because of COVID. But then what we also saw that when the market started picking up, the productivity of resources went higher. And what they were delivering earlier, suddenly they were delivering twice as much when they were working from home, right? Now we just had the tools to monitor and manage and everything. And that is what happened in the industry. So people no longer were hung up on, I need a person in my office, in my city, coming to office. And then it changed in terms of where is that I can find a good resource, a quality resource, irrespective of where that person is located. Either it could be within the country, it could be outside the country, it could be Kenya, it could be Philippines, or wherever it could be. We need to look at quality resources. And that's the real transformation which happened. Now, that was first step. The second step happened was when when the whole AI wave started after this, and where it is no longer just about. Well, you spoke about gig economy workers and everything. So gig economy generally people refer to around is that with the blue collar jobs and
Right.
everything. But even if you look at the conventional white collar jobs, no longer it is about people giving and I have this skill, I need a job. People are now creating a portfolios where he'll say, I can do this, I can be a, let's talk in terms of technology side. I could be a Java developer, but I could also do um, uh, data annotation, or I could do training, or I could do this as well. So they're different, each one of us, we have different capabilities. But in an organization, because we get restricted into doing this, we just keep doing that. And I think this is what has also opened up opportunities for people, where people started creating portfolios for themselves. And this is what's going to be for the future. People are not going to be applying that I have this skill, hire me. They'll say, this is what my portfolio is. And this is where the transformation is going to be happening. And this is what we have already started seeing happening in the market. So,
So
yeah.
If you're saying that it worked so well
Yeah,
as in the remote work,
yeah,
right, then why do we see a lot of companies calling back employees, or work from office coming back? I'm sure you must have heard in the news, a
yeah.
lot of companies have announced it, right? All the big giants, the Google and everybody's asking employees to come back. So why?
So there are two different reasons for that. One, even in these large organizations, there are people who are a higher percentage of people are still working from home.
Mhm.
But then there are certain functions where they are calling in people. If an organization has not been able to evolve themselves for the certain roles, the shortest way is get everyone off to office.
Okay.
All right, that's a shortcut, people.
Hmm.
I'll just give you an example. I met a procurement head for a large AI company, and they have almost like 20,000 people worldwide. And I asked him, I met him in Bombay, and I said, "Where's your office?" He said, "This is our office." We were sitting in the hotel. And he said, "This is my office." I said, "What do you mean by that?" He said, "We have no office." And he said, "This is a policy worldwide. It is not about in India. 20,000 people all work remotely."
Wow.
And that company's valuation is increasing and
Hmm.
revenue is also increasing very fast. One of the fastest growing
Hmm.
companies. I can't name them,
Mm.
but they
Sure.
were growing very fast.
Hmm.
Now, that actually also made me think. So, when I was on my way back from the hotel and go to the airport, I started calling up some of my teams. I said, "Guys, why are we hung up on calling people to office? If they're good resources, they can work remotely. Let's start exploring that." Although we still have some people working remotely, but we have a large percentage of people coming to office. We still, though, we are also in the old school, we were
Hmm.
there. And that is when I started calling up many of our leaders. And I
Hmm.
said, "Guys, I would like that every team should have 30% of their team members working remote. Now, it is for you as a manager to find ways of making it happen without compromising on productivity." And I think that is what organizations need to really find ways, not go just for the shortcut, get everyone to office. And that's the only way it's going to work.
Okay.
Yeah.
For listeners
Yeah.
who may be hearing about employer of record
Yeah.
services for the first time,
Yeah.
can you walk us through what it means in practice and why it has become such a relevant model for businesses looking to hire globally today?
Yeah, so this gets an extension from what I was saying earlier, the change which happened during COVID. Although this business was going on for quite some time, it was never so structured and calling it employer of records. But like if you look at companies like Globalization Partners and all, or Rippling, they were doing it for the last 20 years. However, COVID, when it happened, it became more structured, more organized, and as an industry, it started growing. So, what it has enabled is that in a conventional way, if I want two AI engineers to be hired in Kenya, what's the general method? That one, you would go there, open up an entity, hire HR team, hire compliance team, hire finance teams. First of all, you hire 10 other people to manage those few resources, and then who will take care of taxes, filing, and everything. And then you'll go and hire those couple of engineers.
It's a
So
pain.
it's a pain. One is amount of time it's going to take. You need to be sure what are the compliances, statutory requirements of that country. Sometimes, even if you go and open up an entity, it could take months to get a bank account open,
Right.
right? It's a big problem there. Now, here, what EOR has enabled, there are companies who specialize in this. They said, wherever you need resources, you just identify them. You let us know, we'll take care of everything. We'll take candidates on our payroll. We'll ensure taxes, compliances, whatever is required, insurances. We'll take care of everything. You just manage, focus on work. And we'll take a small fee for that. Right? Now, suddenly, companies where you had large support functions which were there, they got released from that. And they're just focusing on the core business. And that is something which has become very interesting. And what people need to see that this is how organizations are now looking at that. Again, today, if I want to hire someone in, let's say, Karnataka, in Noida, we were not aware, but Karnataka, there is something called professional taxes you need to there. You have to go and register there and everything. Imagine within the country, if I go and tell my client, you don't have to worry. No GST registration required, no PT required, no any other. I'll take care of everything. Suddenly that will enable, and we are talking this within the country. Now look at it if you have to go and hire outside as well. And that will certainly open up a huge plethora of opportunities for companies to hire talent.
You talked about small fee. How small is that?
So, so it could vary depending on the country to country. It could vary from as low as, let's say, $200, $100 a month, to it can go to 5 to 600, depending on what are the benefits. So these are there are various contributing factors
Okay.
which go into the cost.
It's not based on the percentage of the
There are
remuneration.
companies who do that as
Okay.
well. So there are companies, they follow different models. So somebody will come and say that I would take 12% of your salary of the person as a fee. There are companies who will say I'll take fixed amount on this particular candidate, irrespective of whatever salary it is. So it varies from organization to organization in terms of how they want to drive it.
Nice. And do you also help them in hiring the resources,
Yeah. So
in identifying? I mean,
yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
what is happening is what started when EOR started initially, it was just about we'll take care of that.
Right.
Now there is a limit to how much you can do. So now as organizations, there are companies who are saying, we'll not just you tell us our business, we will find resources, shortlist resources for you, and manage those resources in terms of compliances. And that is where companies like eSolutions come in, wherein whose work our strengths have been in workforce management, doing recruitment, delivery for resources. And with our own presence in 35 countries, where we have our own legal entities, we'll say we'll take care of this as well. And we have partners in some of the others. So that is where the differentiator comes in. We are not just giving you compliances, we are building up your team as well. That's
Nice.
how companies will grow. And otherwise, what happens is you hear a buzzword today, there are 10 companies to jump onto that.
All right.
This is so easy, we can do it, right? But what is the differentiator you're creating? How you can have it more efficiently with things being managed? That is where it comes in.
I bet it really helps in expanding globally,
Yeah,
right?
correct. Now,
So,
earlier, what was happening is when you are started, they said, you identify the resource, let us know, and we'll take care of it. Today, you're saying, you tell us, let us know your business challenge.
all right.
So, our penetration of such companies is further in. It's not that after the resource is hired,
All right.
it is we'll help you identify a resource, doing an assessment of the resources. That's where companies, platforms like IROs and others, and the others as well, they'll say that we'll do an assessment for you as well and give you a qualified profile.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. Now, do you think the traditional idea of employment, a single employer, a defined role,
Yeah.
a linear career is going to look fundamentally different a decade from now? And what does the future of the employee-employer relationship look like to you?
Yeah. So, like I said earlier, the whole engagement model is going to change quite a lot, where people will also constantly look at what they are doing, how there'll be a lot of investment which will go into learning and development of resources, where resources will not just get limited. Because if you look at it, technology evolution is happening so fast that somebody who was, let's say, a COBOL developer, nobody talks about that resource today,
True.
right? And similarly, there are a lot of technologies today as well. So if somebody is hung up on those, there is people will die out professionally, right? So what's going to happen is, as I see in the future, people will get multi-skilled, right? And then they'll start positioning themselves multi-skilled. And even within the organization, because we are working in a very agile industry, your requirement will also not be such that if I hire a resource, I would have requirement for the same skill for 9 hours or 8 hours in a day for 365 days in a year. You could say I have a fractional requirement for that,
All right.
right? So what will happen is, so similarly, resources will also come and say that I can come and work for you 4 hours for this particular skill, and the same resource will go in to another company that I can come and work for you for 3 hours for this particular work. So one, it will bring in more flexibility for the resources. We often talk about work-life balance. That's where the whole thing is going to come into play. But in addition to this, the earlier statement I made, which is about portfolios which are going to be created. So an individual is going to come and say, I can play a guitar, I can play a piano, and I can play a mouth organ as well. What do you need? And I'll work for you for that. That is what's going to happen there. The conventional working methods are going to be changing, and engagement methods are going to be changing. So that is how the whole industry is going to be evolving. And when I said earlier, the gig economy workers are not just about blue collar jobs, even the white collar jobs, it's going to be taken up more professionally that way. This is what I see. There's few trends, few light of that which you're seeing today. It is happening, but you will see having more prevalent in future.
Do you think that in India we should move towards pay per hour model like we have it in US or European markets compared to the monthly remuneration or monthly payroll model that is there prevalent in Indian
Yeah,
market?
yeah. So I think that is inevitable. That's going to happen. But maybe there is a journey which you need to take. It will not happen immediately. But from pay per month, I think it could change to per day. Like Europe is still using per day, right? They're not going by per hour, and there's a transition which is going to be happening. So same thing is going to happen here. I think in near future you would have, or it could start with per week or per day, and then it is inevitable because as the industry grows,
Right.
it's not necessary we have to go by one step at a time. We would go through that, and per hour is going to come in as the industry is changing very fast. Requirements of the industry is coming in, and that's inevitable. That's going to happen.
Okay, all right. Now, recently, government came out with new labor laws, which are getting if in effect from I think 1st of April
Yeah,
2026. Like the minimum 50% of the basic pay should be there, right?
yeah,
Salary to be dispersed before 7th, and women being allowed in the night shifts,
yeah.
etc. Right? Now, do you think this is enough, or there's a lot more that the government needs to do on this?
I think it is never enough. You can always keep doing more and more for people too. But the only thing which you need to also do is that we are moving in one direction, but we're not taking care of it. The other side, where we are looking at what's happening in the West, that this is what's happening in Norway, this is what's happening in US. We should also do that. But are you creating a social security network for people as well? Because if the companies do not hire them, or they let go, or they hire contractors, what is the fallback mechanism for them? So you just cannot handpick something and say, do this, and you need to look at how things are and it should not happen that by bringing in more security you deter a certain segment of people. To your earlier question, you said, is that enough? I would say it's never enough. If we can do more for employees, we can do more for people, make them more excited about the organization and make them committed. Absolutely. I think full support for that.
I was listening to one of the discussions
Yeah.
on these labor laws, and one thing that a lot of people said that they missed out was the notice period
Mm.
part in that.
Mm.
Do you think that notice period should be standardized in India? Why I'm saying that? Let me complete.
Mm.
Uh, so I was talking to somebody. He said that in my company there is a notice period of 3 months.
Yeah.
Now I do not want to keep it, but I have to keep it.
Mm.
Why? Because if I bring it down to 1 month, my competitors start targeting me.
Mm.
And then obviously my employees are more vulnerable to be picked up by my competitors. So as a precaution, I have to keep it 3 months. So if the government puts a ban, or if the government puts something, a restriction that it's 1 month, let's say, for across the country, right? I'm happy doing it. So do you think that this is what is needed to address that problem? Because a lot of employees have this challenge.
See, I think you cannot have one size fit all scenario. So there are certain roles, certain functions where there is a considerable amount of knowledge transfer which has to be done. People are handling key roles. When a person quits, you have to hire a replacement. Unlike a conventional IT services company where you have people in tons, one person quit, there are five more people to fill up that role. It doesn't make too much of, it doesn't impact their business. But let's say a research organization or product development companies where every person is accounted for. If a person quits, right, and if a proper knowledge transfer has not been done, or a replacement has not been hired for that, it could have a huge impact in the product life cycle of that, right? Now, how do you really address that? Then you say, oh, it was 1 month, the government has, and you can't mandate it. So I think you can't take decisions one for everything. There are certain roles, even 1 month is not required, right? Say, for instance, you have a call center agent now who's a very transactional engagement with the company. Now, if the person wants to leave within 1 week or notice and the company feels also that's not a problem, absolutely we should be. I think what is important is whatever policy we deploy, it should be both ways. It cannot be a company, a candidate is required to give 3 months notice,
Of
but I
course.
can fire him tomorrow,
Absolutely.
right?
I
So
agree.
that is unfair.
Yeah,
But
true.
whatever we decide, it should be both ways,
Absolutely.
balanced, and it should be type of work, industry. And I think government can, government, I think they should not get involved in everything,
Hmm.
because wherever government get involved, a lot of times there are also counter effects on that.
True.
But we should try and see industry should look into that, whatever works for their business.
Hmm.
There are rules when, say, for instance, tomorrow if I quit, I can't say, oh, 1 month notice given, I'm moving out. They would hire a person. It could take 3 months, it could take 6 months as well,
Sure.
right? And so, like, we had recently a person in the leadership role moved out, and we did give him that notice, and we said, you be on garden leave, but we'll identify, and wherever required, please come and help us out on that. So, you need to find ways. There's no one way of doing that. This is the right way or this is the wrong way.
Great.
Yeah.
Right. So, if I have to ask you to
Yeah.
name top three services whose demand will grow at the highest rate in the future, what would that be? Since you come from the service industry, so top three services that you feel.
I think one, there are various derivatives of the AI side work which is going to be happening. We see a opportunity of, one is the on the AI side, people who are prompt engineers who are going to be there, because no longer people will require programmers, right? It is beyond that. It is how you can prompt the LLMs to get the application done. So there is going to be a humongous opportunity how proper prompt engineers could be developed, right? Second thing which is also related to is how we can train our LLMs, which are specific to industry, is on the data annotation side. That is which is going to be. So today I'll give you all the three examples related to an industry, because that's
Sure.
where maximum work is happening.
Yeah.
And the third is going to be on the agentic side of it. A lot of work is going to be happening, how orchestration of humans and the agents could be done in terms of providing services and solutions. I think that is on the agentic side, orchestration of agents. Then you have annotation, and then you have prompt engineers. That's where I see maximum growth coming in.
Hmm. Okay. Interesting. So, do you think that the government has, government has been focusing too much on the, the manufacturing sector of lately? You must have
Yeah,
heard, right?
yeah,
I'm not saying it's wrong. It's good, of
yeah,
course,
yeah.
right? But do you think that somewhere or the other services sector is feeling ignored?
See, the different things. If you look at it, whatever growth has happened in service sector, it has happened because of people,
Hmm.
right? The corporates have come, or entrepreneurs have come up, and then that has led to the growth of this. And I think that's the best thing it should be happening, because it is very people driven services, and if you leave it there without less interference, it's going to grow. What government should do is how you can make it possible for people to work without interference,
Okay.
right? That's, and you'll see exponential growth happening there. As far as manufacturing is concerned, there is a lot of support or policies or benefits with the government side, because you're competing, and it is very important because that also creates employment for people at the lower strata of society, right? The blue collar jobs, and that
Right.
is very, and those are the big vote banks as well.
Mm.
Nothing wrong in that,
Of
but it's
course.
a necessity as well. You
Sure.
just cannot keep looking at.
India has always been very strong in the services sector, if you look at it,
Yeah,
right, from
yeah.
the GDP
Correct,
perspective, right?
correct.
So, again, it's important to develop the manufacturing sector, right? But at the same time, I think there should be enough focus on the services sector also, that there are enough incentives or enough push for the companies to hire more people, right? Ultimately, that's what is generating more employment for you in the country right now.
Yeah, so little tricky situation there, because if you look at it, with this whole evolution of technology also happening, that is also having an impact in the ability to hire, right? A lot of lower end of jobs in engineering or computer science, which was happening, that is also gonna get impacted. Government cannot find alternatives. Government can also always do, and I fully agree with you, how they can incentivize more, how they can help people who are coming up with new ideas, new suggestions. They should try and create more incubations or giving them benefits. That is certainly the government can do. But the real application of that, the government cannot play a role, right? Uh, Government can become an accelerator in terms of, one, there are lesser barriers in terms of people to do it. Yes, I think some of the things which government did was about startup Indias and others, where they're giving them tax benefits and giving them preference in some of the engagements. Those are some of the things. I'm sure there much more can also be done. But I feel whatever on the services side government should be doing, they are doing it. But we love who will say if they're ready to help, who would say no to it? Yeah,
Of course. But you talked about AI,
yeah,
right? That AI is going to lead the way in the
yeah, yeah.
future. Uh, do you think AI will eventually eat up a lot of, lot of IT or, a lot of data, low level jobs?
So what's going to happen is partially, yes, that's going to happen. But what's also going to happen is that AI will take away jobs of people who show aversion to AI.
Okay.
Okay. So people, as more and more people adopt I think AI, because I'll give a parallel example. Mid 80s, the government started off computerization in banks. So the first thing which happened, the banks went on strike, and they said, "Oh, computerization is happening. They're going to take away our jobs." And government said, "No, we are not going to do that," and nothing happened. So finally they said, "We are giving you guarantees." It was easier for them because they were only government banks that time, and they said, "We are giving guarantees. No job loss is going to happen." Slowly they started adopting. Now, what has happened is when the adoption has started happening and people started learning, the same teller who was sitting in a bank addressing 10 customers in an hour is now able to do 50 customers. If there were X number of bank branches there, today you have 20X number of branches. Number of people employed with the banking sector has grown so much. So what is happening is the same thing happens everywhere. Now, as the penetration with AI starts happening with everyday work, you would see humongous opportunities emerging. New areas where we are not even thought of today will emerge, right? And new employments will be created. But if there are people who say, I had a particular way of doing it, I'll only do it like this, yes, their jobs, they will lose their jobs, right? If people say, I have to develop an application, I will do coding only for this, they will lose their jobs because nowadays conventional coding is not going to be. Today it is all AI can generate all your codes in few hours or few minutes. What you take weeks to do that. So how will you survive against that? Now it is all about, like I said, people who are well versed or prompt engineering and how to use these AI models which are there, or develop specialized LLMs to different industries. There is going to be an opportunity there, and then you have to train them. Who's going to be training them? People are going to be training them. That is where the new set of opportunities are going to get created. But yes, if somebody says, I'm not going to change, yes, I agree with you, they're going to lose their jobs. But and believe me, you can take it in writing. Not that any of my writing carries any weight, but 10 years from now, you would see this business doubling or tripling in terms of employment opportunities. It'll come in different ways, but it is going to come. And economies will go much faster.
So you're saying basically that they have to be more agile,
They have to be more, and they have to be more adaptive.
adaptive.
Yeah, yeah.
I, in fact, see that, some employees think that, if they let an AI tool enter the company,
Yeah, yeah.
right, they might lose the job tomorrow,
I agree.
right? Do you face such situation?
Yeah, so first time when we deployed some of the tool, when I was doing a town hall with the employees, and I said, any questions? So first of all, they took 5 minutes, no questions. And finally, one person raised a hand and said, what happens to our jobs? And I said, what happens to your job? Are we going to lose our jobs? I said, absolutely not, because we are conservative, so we don't fire people like that. So second thing we said is our objective of deploying this tool is that today, if you're doing X amount of business, we want to do 3x. Not that we want to reduce our cost by X by 2 with doing the X amount of business, right? We would like the same set of, let's say, 1,000 employees who are working today, if they're doing X amount of revenue, can we do 3x of the revenue? That is the charter we have. Because what we also see is that even if the market does not expand, we know we'll eat up the business of many of our competitors because market is still not, especially in the business we are in, there are a lot of companies are not even talking about it. They're not adapting to the change. They still think we are going to do, and we know they're going to die out 1 year, 2 years down the line.
Nice. So one of your venture is IRO AI, right? Which I believe helps in hiring through AI, right?
Yes.
So could you tell us a little bit more about it? What exactly it does, or what problem are you trying to solve?
So the whole thought for IRO really came in that because we are in the workforce management business, we engage with clients, we realized some of the challenges which the clients are also facing. One is that the requirements are no longer vanilla requirements. You require just a Java developer or you require only this. Today, client's requirement is a mix of skills, a mix of competencies they look at, right? Second, what is also happening is they're looking at distributed workforces in Germany or in Spain or in Egypt, or many of our clients in the US are shifting to Latin, where Spanish or Portuguese, they speak English, but they also speak these languages. Now we look at it, if a lot of hiring is happening, going to happen this way, how do we enable our clients? So the thought process was enabling our clients to really service this. So one, the major requirement was that the requirements could be very diverse. How could you do an assessment of that? Because a lot of time the clients also do not have panel to do an assessment.
True.
And there could be very few people and they complain that why am I called for interviews? I have other things to do. So they also have a problem. Second is the linguistic side of it, right? Third thing which happens is that because you get distributed in multiple geographies, there are a lot of statutory compliances also you need to be aware of. And your interview assessment is not just for tech roles, you need also operational assessment of resources to be done. How do you take care of? So that was a problem statement we started working with. And that's when, because we have a department which is called AI Labs, and that is a problem statement, we gave it to them. So, guys, this is a problem. How do we address it? And then they started working on creating models, creating solutions to it. So now what AI IRO does is that it does assessment of candidates in 36 languages. So if you're a German, it'll do German. If you're in Spanish, it'll do Spanish. It'll also do multilingual. If you let's say I am a North Indian here who would probably during my conversation could use sentences of Hindi or a Punjabi or any other and English. Somebody who's from let's say South India may not understand completely what all I said. But that's where the model we said this is what are the things we require. If you're hiring a Spanish candidate in Mexico, he could give an interview in English, but he could also use phrases in Mexican Spanish language. So we need to be, but he could a great resource. So we said we need those things to be taken care of. So this was a problem statement we gave. So one is linguistic. Second is also with the skills requirement which were there, which could be mix of multiple things, and not just about IT. Tomorrow, if
Sure.
I want to do clinicians, I want to do accountants, if I want to do insurance underwriters or anything which is there, can I create a platform for that? And that was the thing which was again. So the team worked on it and they created, and that's when we launched Hiro, which is not just able to do linguistic resources, it will do multi skilled resources. You enter the job description in terms of it will help you create a job description as well if you don't have it. You enter the resume of the candidate, and this interview platform, assessment platform, would generate, which is a conversational AI based. So another problem we saw that there were platforms which were available, but they were like pre-fed questions which were there, and AI would ask them, capture there or whatever. And we said it needs to be more conversational. How can it be more human-like experience? Now, if you give me a reply, I should not go on to the next question. I should dig you further on that, right? That is what we said. It should be conversation, more human engagement. And that is what this charter was given to them, that we want a platform to be created which is more human-like experience on any skills where the candidate could be, or any language where the candidate is comfortable giving interview in. And so that's how we developed on this. Now we extending this further, where it could be multiple MCQs questions, or it could be programming tests, or it could be aptitude, and any of those things we want. Uh, the
So
platform is going to
can
do.
it help in employee, or sorry, the resume screening also?
Yes.
Okay.
So what we are so one that's one version of the IRO platform which I spoke about. But if you look at the overall scope, the overall scope it is around what we coined a term called zero touch recruiting,
Okay.
wherein if somebody just goes and enter the requirement, it will. So this is a very agentic AI based framework. So there are multiple agents coming into play. So one, you'll have one agent which will help you create a job description, screen it further, ask you cross questions. Is this what you exactly want? Do you want to find it to this going to do? Second, it will go and search for candidates.
Okay.
It will go and look for job boards, or it could go to LinkedIn's, and or it could look at internal databases, and it will search for candidates and pull them in.
I'm sorry. So are you saying that it can get connected with, let's
Yes.
say, Indeed, Monster,
Yes.
or
Yeah,
Naukri.com
yeah.
for that matter?
Naukri, maybe no, because Naukri
Okay.
doesn't expose their APIs.
Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So they're holding it everything tight together.
Okay.
But wherever the platform is open, it would there are open APIs, so it'll go and integrate with them
Okay.
and pull resumes from there, and then shortlist, do the matching. It'll give a result. Why is a good match compared to others which are there, and then if so we are trying to what we are also trying is we are bringing humans in the loop as well. So if
Okay.
there's a human which wants to vet whatever AI is doing, it can do. If you say no, I don't need it, let everything happens. Then there is another agent which is the AI bot which is there, voice bot. The voice bot is going to call up the candidate and just say, hey, we got your resume on this particular thing. This is what the JD is. Are you interested for this role? But you are sitting in Delhi. Hey, but the job is in Chandigarh. Will you be open to that? Why will you be open to that? Don't you have a family? It will do that conversation, whatever human does. And they'll say, salary, this is what the salary engagement is. Are you open, flexible, or not? It'll do all that assessment. And then he says, everything works out fine. I'm just sending you a link to the interview. Please go and click on the interview and do an assessment on that. And we are not scheduling it. We are just keeping a 24 hours window, whatever time you're convenient. Go and click on that, give the interview. Now that's when the person clicks on that interview. There's a proper proctoring also which is happening where it is monitoring that he's not cheating or nobody else is doing that. Once that is done, it will do an assessment. Again, a very conversational AI. So I think, and the funny thing which just happens in this is you don't know how it's going to react. I remember, and I tell this thing to many of the people, that somebody, because when we were testing, the guy started narrating story of Durandar movie. He said, let's see how they say. And AI said, look, my time is important. Let's just focus on the interview. We'll discuss the movie later. And we were taken aback. What happened here? How did it do
Nice.
that? And it gave that response. So it's turning more and more intelligent as we train it more and
Very
more.
conversational.
Yeah, very conversational. And after it is driven, it will do an assessment, give a report that this question he gave this answer, why it is good, why it is bad, give a summary, and finally you can submit to the client. Now that is what we are trying to work on.
It sounds amazing. It
Yeah.
sounds amazing, and definitely it can. I would say that lot of hiring challenges will be solved. Like you
Correct.
talked about,
Yeah.
the I think the biggest or the most basic challenge is in terms of the language issues,
Yeah.
right? For example, if I want to go to Spain and hire somebody there, the language issues are too much,
Correct.
right? Or for that matter, let's say Japan,
Yeah.
right, where the languages,
Absolutely. You'll not find English speaking
yeah,
people there.
it's very difficult,
Yeah, yeah, correct.
So I think that it will make a lot of difference, and especially what I feel is that the recruiters, they spend most of their time rather than interviewing people, but screening more and more resumes, right? I think
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
where they're wasting a lot of their time. And if it can do that, if it can screen resumes and give you shortlisted resume
Correct.
based on your requirement, I think that would make a huge difference.
Absolutely. And see, what is happening also is that the reason they can't do a proper, because the same recruiter will get a SAP requirement, will get an AI requirement, will get a COBOL requirement.
Yeah.
How will you do an assessment when it's so diverse, right?
Absolutely.
Because the client requirements keeps changing,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Until unless you have specialized, only one requirement will go to him, then it is possible for a person to do an assessment. So that's where the AI agents which we are developing will help. And although we have this zero touch recruiting, but we are trying to bring in more human part of it because we are also bringing guardrails around it. That it should not start hallucinating itself and start giving results which are
Right.
not
Yeah.
there. So we want to have those checks and balances, and that's where the human will come in. Also, keep validating whatever is done, it is perfectly fine or not, or do we want to make any changes?
So,
So
at what stage do you expect the human touch should be there? I mean, is it after the shortlisting has been done by the AI, or
yeah, yeah. So I think there are various levels it could be introduced. One
Okay.
is once the shortlisting results are there,
Mm-hmm.
and you could do that. Second is after the AI bot, voice bot has had finished off a conversation and it says I've shortlisted.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe it says I'm rejecting these candidates because there's a reason. So it can look into this, okay, the reason doesn't seem very fair. That could be a genuine issue why the candidate did reply this way. He could still be considered. So we're trying to do those balances. You could do it there. And then same thing about the interview when the interviews happened. Now, when the interview got finished, the assessment is equally balanced on the basis of questions which were asked. Now, the person could come and say, although this question is been rated low, but this is not very important to my job. I can ignore it. Let me not give too much of it. So that's where checks and balances could come in, where the human will come and role. And that is what we see that future is also going to be that the recruiters in the company, they may not do everything which is monotonous, continuous job, but they will get into validating a lot of results which are coming in from AI.
Nice, interesting.
Yeah.
So, is it very expensive?
It is going to be, if you look at it overall in terms of productivity, it is going to be at the fraction of cost where you
Mm-hmm.
have humans being done. So
Even
we,
when compared with Indian workforce, or
yeah, even
even.
compared to Indian workforce. So, but
Mhm.
what we are saying is, uh, if we add this to our Indian workforce, their own performance could be 3x.
Mhm.
If a person is generating an X amount of revenue, they could generate 3x amount with the humans being involved. So again, we keep telling everyone, you're not replacing anyone. This is what,
I'm sure,
yeah, yeah,
because that's the first thing that will come
yeah,
to their mind, you
correct,
know.
correct.
Nice. Okay. All right. So, could you give us who all are using this platform right now? Who's the ideal target audience for this?
So I'll tell you, after we participated, we launched this product in India AI Summit,
Mm-hmm.
and since then we had customers coming from banks, customers who are coming in from universities. All of them have different case. Where people who are coming from universities, they are looking at it. Oh, when we are hiring faculty, somebody to do an assessment on that. Another university came and said that all when our candidates or the students are graduating, before they go and sit in front of companies, we would like them to go through this assessment, and if they know their gaps, they can fine tune those before they do that. So everyone has got a different. There are R&D organizations, there is manufacturing, and then there are IT as well. I think of the top five IT companies in India, two of them are already working with us. They're doing a beta testing on this platform.
That's
So that
great.
is where, so the scale wise, it
Mm-hmm.
is against a 100% company to a 100,000 people company. They are all talking to us.
Hmm. Okay. So, do you have a lot of Gen Z working for you in your company?
So if you look at the average age of employees in a company is around 23, 24.
Hmm.
That's on the workforce side. On the people who are working on the AI side, um, I think that's around 22, 23.
Wow.
So we particularly took a decision.
Mm-hmm.
We did hire some leadership roles,
Mm-hmm.
but we took a decision that we'll hire from campuses.
Okay.
All right. So instead of going in the market and looking for people, because what has happened is many of the people who are there in the market, they were trained on something else. They just learned it and moved in here.
Hmm.
And we said, and they're less receptive to the changes. And we said the young guys,
Hmm.
um, and that's why we created many of these as separate independent startups. That if we can give them startup culture and give them those benefits, and if they come up with new ideas, many of the things we are creating have been created by these interns or the fresh graduates. And then the senior team comes in, give it a more shape of a product. But we have two great products which have been created by our interns or the fresh graduates who joined us. So,
So, a lot of Gen Zs,
yeah,
they're demanding work from home, or 4-day work week,
yeah.
or flexible working hours, and due to which, what has happened is that certain organizations have decided that they're not going to hire Gen Zs.
Mm-hmm.
Rather, they're putting up some kind of barrier. Let's say that they want to hire people who are above this particular age group.
Hmm.
Uh, do you think they're doing the wrong thing, or they're making a mistake in ignoring it?
So it depends on type of industry you're working for.
Hmm.
Let's say you're working in a banking, then it's better to look for that particular age group where people are little mature and things
Hmm.
like that. But if you're looking at service area which is more innovation driven,
Hmm.
uh, location is just like I said earlier. Uh, why do we need people that? And I had a meeting with some of our teams, and I said, guys, I don't care whether you come to office or not,
Sure.
as long as we can adhere to the timelines, the
Right.
deliverables. If you don't show me your face for a month as well, I'm more than happy,
Hmm.
because now I can use the same infrastructure to hire more people,
Right.
right? But only thing we need to be sensitive about is the deliverables and the quality of work which is being done.
Hmm.
So we would like that people. So I think that's what we are trying to work on.
Hmm.
That within the organization, the culture of innovation and new ideas, and we've been more receptive. We recently did a competition also within the company,
Hmm.
wherein we said come up with ideas, and ideathon we ran,
Hmm.
and the person who won that was a person, although he's been offered, he's still an intern, he won that competition.
Okay.
So that's what we are trying to. I
Nice.
think we are transforming ourselves quite a lot in that regard.
Nice. A lot of people are saying that in future
Hmm.
softwares will become free
Hmm.
because the coding is being done through
Yeah.
AI. A lot of LMs,
Yeah.
they're claiming that it can be done, and it can be done.
Correct.
And I understand that probably it's not perfect at this stage, but probably 6 months or 1 year down the line, it will be right. Uh, do you think that this is an alarming situation for the software industry specifically, or what do you see as the future of the software developers?
So to a very large extent, some of the tools which were available, they will become free, right? Um, However, there are a new set of products. If you look at it, the darling of the baby today is ChatGPTs and
Right.
OpenAI, and within 2 years they're over $1 billion ARR,
Mm-hmm.
right? That's also a revenue stream which has been developed
Mm-hmm.
for the company. There are users who are sitting at home who would go and take a subscription of Chat GPTs or Gemini and others, which will enable in their work as well.
Mm-hmm.
So there's a new segment of business which is also, imagine within 2 years you have $1 billion of ARR
Right.
coming in. How many companies were earlier able to do that, right? So
Hardly
there
any.
is, so if there are companies who are doing conventional work,
Mm-hmm.
right, they would lose out, absolutely. But if you can create a value for the customer with the same tools which were there, companies will certainly continue working and they will continue growing. So, yes, partially I agree with you that there will be certain businesses which will get impacted. Take an example when you have uh, iOS, right? iOS, when it was developed, a lot of companies created their small apps, and they will charge 99 cents for that or per month and something. And then a few years later, Apple developed it as a part of default app in the system, and suddenly all those products just valid. So
Right.
if you are having a conventional thing which could be replaced very fast, where the
Mm-hmm.
threshold for entry for the competition is low, you will lose out. But if you create that niche and these differentiators, uh, absolutely, there is going to be value. So same thing as when we spoke about the interview platform, there could be a scenario where somebody could come up and give you an interview platform which is free. But if I can have a customized interview where I have my own LLMs, where the platform is getting trained and a lot of other value-driven part comes in, then I can never be replaced. So I need to keep innovating myself as well. I just cannot say I create a great product, but now I can retire. That's not going to happen.
Hmm. Okay. Now, expanding into new country or market is never as straightforward as it looks from the outside,
Yeah,
right? And there are always things that you're catching up, or off guard
yeah,
catches you culturally, operationally, and otherwise.
yeah.
What has the experience been of scaling across borders taught you that you did not expect going in?
I think what happens is when you're growing cross borders and going to new geographies, a lot of time people make that mistake that they start looking at things through the prism of where they have been working. Wherein if somebody is working in US, they feel, oh, it's a straightforward, you pay a person a payroll, there's a payroll loading, and that's it. That's what happened. Whereas when you go to more and more countries, you would see the type of things you could never imagine. Let's say when we went to Mexico, we realize there's something called a 13th month salary which has to be also provisioned for. There's a 1 month salary which has to be given as bonus. I think in another of the Latin countries you have 13th and 14th month salary which has to be given. Now if you go by the conventional pay, it's a payroll tax itna hua, ye hua, and this is what you provision for. These are some things which you also have to provision for. Then there are countries where you say as an organization, whatever profits the company earns, there's a percentage of that has to be given to the employee as well. So you got to be very, so don't rush into, oh, I can go to any country, and if you're doing it yourself and I can run it in that way, I can hire people. What is there? So you got to be very, very careful about what are the loadings, what are the benefits, what are the statutory compliances which are there. And the next important thing is the employee classifications in certain countries. Now I'll give you an example. Recently in Nordics, one of the Nordics countries, when we went in there, uh, they don't have minimum wages. So we went and signed contracts and we hired people there. And then about a month later, we realized that we were non-compliant. And then we said, why are we non-compliant? There's nowhere it's mentioned minimum wage is not there. They said, no, in this country, there are unions who would go and sign a contract with the government who will decide what is the wage for this particular type of work is going to be. Never heard of that, right? So you got to be very, so everything looks very simple,
Right.
but you should do proper due diligence before you jump into the bandwagon of going to multi, until it's, or go and work with an UR company. So they are aware, they'll take care of everything. But if you're going on your own, please do not rush into it. You will fall flat. You will end up burning cash if you do not take all these proper precautions, understanding the market, the licenses which are required, how companies have, there are special licenses which are only given to their citizens. You cannot get it as a foreign owner or owned company. You cannot get those licenses. So it's important for companies to understand nuances of this particular geography or the country they go in and then start working there. Don't jump onto that immediately.
I've often seen that probably you might have noticed as well that most of the Japanese companies,
Yeah.
right, whenever they enter a new foreign market, at the top, the management, they will always deploy a Japanese there,
Yes.
right? Uh, why do you think, why do they do that or why do they follow that?
So I think it's also the cultural part of it where they feel. So if you look at Japan's culture, uh, they're still very old school, where um, the top leadership is looked up by all the people at they are like demigods in those culture in those companies, and because they come with that sort of culture, they generally look at treating everyone in the same way, and because it's Japan, everybody is running after them, their ability to dictate many of those things, because but then they want to maintain consistency of engagements when it's being working with the Japanese entity and an Indian entity or not Korean or let's say Indonesian entity. They want to maintain the consistency in terms of engagement. Second is language is also always a constraint, so they would require their own people who would culturally understand part of it. But it is also a lot to do with, and it's not just Japan. You would also see China as well. China puts in a lot because they don't trust, right? There's also a trust factor part of it. So a lot of these societies are very class-driven societies where the top guy is considered like a demigod in their companies.
Okay, so what is the biggest misconception that people on the outside tend to have about the workforce solutions and the staffing industry in general? Uh, what does this space do that most people simply do not fully understand or appreciate?
I think one of the things which is there where people think that it's a very easy to enter business, although in terms of execution of work is very, very easy, right? You find a candidate, you go to Naukri, you go to Dice, you go to Control F, find a candidate, check with him, he's fine, and you submit, right? Client will close, money comes in. Oh, it's very easy to do that. And believe me, I've met so many people who came and interviewed with us, and they said I started off my own, and to a certain level I built it, and then I went in losses. because
Right.
the cash flow issues can come in. Because when you run contracting, your payments are going to come 3 months later, 4 months later, and I ran out of money, and I was just not able to handle it. And if you do not take care of all these things, because a lot of it is, if you look at staffing side, is a cash flow driven business,
Right.
right? And the cost of your own internal resources also increasing constantly,
Absolutely.
right? They are more aware, right? And if you don't have processes in place, because you're too much dependent on individuals, and the individual leaves, the whole account falls,
Mm.
right? So there are a lot of nuances associated with that,
Mm.
and every day this industry is also evolving, right? The statutory requirements which are there. I gave you an example earlier about, let's say, Karnataka has PTs which are there, or Gujarat could have anything else, or Haryana has something else. They have something called, you have to maintain something called bonus registry there. Nowhere else it is maintained, but Haryana has that. So a lot of compliances which are there in any of these states,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't understand that. And
Mm.
many of the companies we are also working with, who are
Mm-hmm.
working as a partners, when we talk to them, they say, what is this? Oh, we do it from there. But the government rules say it should be done locally,
Right.
but they're invoicing it from the place where they are. So a
Mm.
lot of companies are currently operating in a non-compliant way. If you do it
Mm.
compliances, there are a lot of points you need to take into consideration.
Mm.
So if people really spend time understanding it, and there's a lot of technology, there are a lot of processes which are involved. So in terms of execution of that, it's not that easy.
Great. All right, Vishal. So we are switching gears now,
Okay,
right? So this is the rapid fire round where no wrong or right answers,
sure.
right? Just whatever comes to your mind, first thing, right? So early riser or night owl?
Night, night owl.
Okay. One word that describes your leadership style.
Inclusive. I work along with people, my teams. I think that's always the culture I worked with. So develop more leaders, and that will help you grow faster.
Okay. A book that has genuinely stayed with you.
I think one book, and probably that's the last one I read when I had time, was this biography of Elon Musk, which is a billionaire, something I've forgotten the
Right.
name. And that was really interesting because the type of diverse works he's gone into that.
Yeah.
And it's very similar to, obviously, he's at a very different scale altogether, but for me as well, I work with telecom, I work with market research firm, I work with IT concerns, with product companies, all these, and workforce management. They're very all diverse in that way, in a very small way. But if you look at a person like this, highly technical areas, each one of them, you require people who spend generations doing it,
True.
the whole, and he's been able to build and make them successful. I think that was really inspirational.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
The best piece of advice someone ever gave you.
I think one advice which one of my boss gave me was, don't be in a rush to give a solution,
Hmm.
right? And very often we think we get into that. He said, spend time. If somebody is coming to you with a problem, there's much more than what he's been able to express. Try and understand what are the things he's not speaking about,
True.
and then come up with a solution. And I think that was something very interesting.
Okay. A skill that has nothing to do with the business, but you are quietly proud of.
Okay, that's interesting. I think it's now when you spend your whole day in the office, it is linked to business, whatever it is. But somehow I've become very patient. Earlier, at the part of my career, I was very impatient, very impulsive. And I think with certain amount of maturity and responsibilities, I've become more patient listening to people. And I think that is really, I feel very proud of that. And that's not just in office, at home as well. Um, I have become very patient now.
Nice. Meetings or no meetings, if you could redesign the workday, which would it be?
Elaborate more on that.
So, usually most of the time, what happens is that CEOs or the top management is
Yeah,
most of the time they're spending the time in meetings.
yeah, yeah.
So, how would you like it? Meetings or no meetings?
I love meetings.
Oh,
I love sitting with people,
okay.
and discussing and
Mhm.
working and try and work on discussing ideas, solution, because when you are incubating, coming up with a lot of new ideas, you cannot be working in a silos. And I said earlier that we have created somewhat like an incubation
Right.
startup environment.
Yeah.
And with these young people coming in, you love to hear them speak. You love to hear their ideas. So I love meeting people within the office and discuss. Obviously, I don't want them to spend too much of time in meetings, but I have that liberty of doing that. So I loved sitting with people and talking.
Okay. One technology you think is most overhyped right now? Can't be AI. Huh?
No, yeah, absolutely not. I think it's difficult to say what is overhyped because sometimes I've seen in my career things we thought are dying out and they came back in a different
Right.
shape and grew up. So very difficult. I will just say it'll be wrong on your part to just write off anything. It could take a different shape altogether and come back to you. Right. So whether it's people, whether it's technology, don't write off anyone.
Sure. One technology that is underrated and deserves far more attention?
So I think again related to the AI side of it, people are talking about agentics and generative AI and this thing, but I would love companies to focus on the prompt side of it, and I think that is going to be very important, and I think that is what colleges also need to do, because today colleges are still in the old school or love programming. We'll do programming tests and everything. Whereas, like we discussed earlier, coding, programming will be driven by this. And I think your ability to write the right prompt, further drill it down, would really determine. I think, and prompt is, this is a very easy thing which I'm doing, but there's a lot of science behind prompt as
Sure.
well. So I think if people spend more time understanding and how they can leverage it, I think we are not doing enough in that regard. So that's,
Okay. Interesting. All right. This is the last one.
okay.
If you were not doing what you are doing today, what would you be doing?
I'll be taking up a house in a mountain and probably retired because, and I can't think of because there's so much of things happening in that. A lot of time people come and say, hey, you're spending 14 hours in a day. How do you do that? And I always say that because I'm enjoying it. And the day I stop enjoying it, I'll just retire and go to a mountain and stay there. But I think this is the most exciting time we are in. And I'm really enjoying that. So I can't think of anything beyond this.
All right, Vishal. This was absolutely rich and enjoyable conversation. Thank you so much for coming down. Right. It was absolutely and indeed a pleasure meeting you. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you for having me here. It's a great talking with you, and let's see if we can have more sessions in future as well.
Absolutely.
And very, very
Absolutely.
interactive conversation.
Sure. Indeed. Thank
Thank
you.
you.
For more such insightful content, stay tuned with us or reach out to us at info@techsciresearch.com.